Hi, everybody. Welcome back to San Diego People. I'm Sandra Moss. We're talking today about how prolonged cell phone use and social media can affect the development of our children. With me this morning is Dr. Cindy Barrera-Schur. She's a clinical and assessment manager for the San Diego Center for Children. It's very good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the San Diego Center for Children and what they do there. It's been around for 130 years, and you treat and help some very seriously ill children there.
Right. Yeah, so we've been around for 130 years. We have programs around the county, from outpatient therapy services to academic services, in-home services to residential treatment.
And you deal with teenagers and children in a clinical setting, right? So you counseling, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I'm within the residential program, and so I oversee the clinical training and the assessment of the youth as they come in with their needs. I help kind of align their treatment.
Well, let's talk about some of their needs and some of the problems that you have focused on and seen over the years recently related to social media and cell phone use, and how it's impacted the development of adolescence, because it has had an impact, hasn't it?
Sure, absolutely. So we're definitely seeing some trends. We're noticing some trends in terms of increase in anxiety and depression, and actually professor at San Diego State University recently did some research on that.
Well, what about that? Like, it's just is it the envy that they see from all the fabulous lives that everyone else is leading on social media?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it's, causing know what's happening, but what we do know is that the platform through which kids typically go through adolescence has changed.
Right.
So they're not engaging in, more face-to-face interactions. A lot of their developmental processes are happening on social media. So their development, the goals that they have for adolescence, is entirely the same. They have three goals that, all adolescents go through. It's, who am I? Where do I belong? And what can I do? Those are really kind of like the goals for adolescence that, we all went through. But we used to do it in person, face to face, and now they're doing it on social media. The same feelings and anxiety and frustrations and stressors are all there, so all the emotions are similar, but they're taking place on social media.
So they're isolated.
Right. Well, they're isolated. They're doing it alone and supervised, but they have a larger audience. So it's kind of paradoxical. They're isolated, but now they're posting online, and so they have a larger audience.
That's power.
And they have record. So whatever they post, there's a record of what they post, and so those two things can really amplify the consequences, and then the mental health impact, the ramifications of it.
When you and I were growing up, and it was a lot longer ago for me, we would make our mistakes and say and do all those embarrassing, stupid things, and nobody would ever know about it.
Absolutely. So they are making the same mistakes that we made, but now they're broadcasting it to an audience instantly. And there's a paper trail. There's an electronic paper trail of what happens. And so,
what about the expediency of social media and just technology in general? When you were maybe growing up and you were angry at a friend, you were angry and you were able to process your anger before you were able to see the friend and...
Yes.
Now, a click.
Yes.
And your anger is everywhere.
Yes. So what we know is that the adolescent brain isn't developed fully. Not until they're 25, usually, does it fully develop. And the skills that are needed are those skills in terms of impulse control, emotion regulation, exercising prudence. Like, those skills aren't completely formed. And so we had kind of a buffer in that, we didn't have instantaneous ramifications to our behaviors. And so now these kids don't have the executive functioning skills to properly stop themselves, and a forum that allows them to be impulsive.
So how do you treat that for the kids that are at the San Diego Center for Children?
Yeah. So I think many in the same ways that we would, treat with, kids at home is that it's understanding that the process and the rules have changed. They're adolescents engaging in the same things that we used to do, but the platform is much different, and we need to have a conversation with them about that. We need to build those executive functioning skills for them. We need to teach them how to stop, think, and then act. Because they have access, such quick access now to make those decisions, and not really fully aware of what that might mean for them in the future.
You had mentioned anxiety as a byproduct of consuming a lot on your phone and social media, on your computer, what have you. Are there any studies or any statistics when it comes to depression rates among teenagers or suicide rates? Are those on the rise?
Absolutely. All three of those are on the rise, actually. One study looked at young adolescent girls, 12 to 14. Suicide rates since 2012 have tripled. Tripled. Anxiety we're seeing rates of anxiety that are much higher than we've ever seen in the past. Depression.
Disorders, I would imagine, are probably on the rise.
In terms of mental health consequences, we're seeing a rise in a lot of those symptoms, and there are some studies that can correlate that to the amount of time that young kids spend on social media. So. Although they're meant to make us more social, what we're learning is that the more time we spend on them, the more depressed we feel. The more anxious we feel. So it's in a negative,
a vicious cycle.
Right.
What advice do you have for parents out there who are listening to all of this, and it's kind of unrealistic to take a cell phone away from a teenager these days?
Right.
I don't know. How do you rein it in?
Right. So you have to integrate it into life. So this is a new tool. It's not going away. So we need to learn how to adjust to it. So we can't take cell phones away all the time, but we can set some limits around it. We can take it away, at bedtime so that it doesn't interfere with sleep, because sleep is another area that's really impacted. There's that addictive component to checking your Facebook account, checking your Instagram, checking to see how many likes you have, and that can interfere with sleep. So parents do need to set limits and structure around that so that it doesn't interfere with sleep, which then also has other consequences later. So setting some boundaries around when they can use it, and also still trying to get them engaged in the activities. Social media can be great. It can be a great tool to socialize, but you can also encourage them to go socialize in vivo, in live, circumstances.
Face to face.
Right.
Gosh, what a concept that is.
I know.
Dr. Cindy Beretta, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.